I think that the answer to whether or not to raise money really depends upon the business and the market you're going after. If you don't have a precise use of the funds, then don't do it. You're just going to dilute yourself, and you'll feel pressure to spend the money and you'll waste it.
Welcome to the Founders Forum. I'm Blake Tengberg, a transactions attorney at Foley and Lardner. We're so excited to have Spencer Dent with us today. Spencer, thank you for joining.
Appreciate it. Excited to be here.
Well, let's kick off. Tell us about Clozd.
Clozd. We are a software platform, and we provide services for all the companies to help them figure out how to win in sales opportunities. So companies spend a lot of time chasing business. They don't always actually spend a lot of time figuring out why they won or lost. And so the sports analogy is we are game film for companies to go and talk to buyers, do the post-game interview about why you won or lost the deal, and then help you figure out how to win next time.
That's awesome. And how long have you guys been operating now for?
We actually hit our 7-year anniversary on Sunday. So 7 years into this thing.
That's awesome.
Sunday, yeah.
And you guys are doing great.
Crazy how fast it goes. You know, like when you're, not everybody's built for startup life, but if you love what you're building and everything else, this is by far the longest I've ever worked anyone's place, and feels like the shortest.
Oh, that's really awesome. Well, I'm really happy to have you on today. I mean, we have some questions. You know, as you know, we've like to talk to founders and entrepreneurs about their journeys and about their funding history. As I understand it, Clozd didn't take a funding round. I mean, you guys bootstrapped for about 12 to 18 months, as I understand it, or bootstrapped for about 4 years, actually.
4 years,
yeah. Why? You know, most startups will kind of take capital really within the first few months, within the first 12 to 18 months. Why did you guys wait so long to kind of go through your first equity financing round?
It's interesting, Blake, because I think that the answer to whether or not to raise money really depends upon the business and the market you're going after. And for a long time, over the 5-6 years, when interest rates are so low, equity capital, venture capital market is just flush full of cash. You didn't even really have to have that much proof to get somebody to bet on you.
Yeah.
And so that's an intro to answering your question of like, it's not that it wasn't hard to raise money. In fact, we quit our jobs at Qualtrics and we're ready to start this business. And a friend of mine who was in the venture capital space found out that myself and Angie Peterson, the other co-founder of Clozd, that we had decided to go to a startup, and he called us and went to lunch with us. And this is before we even had incorporated as a business, even had a customer or anything. And he's like, we should give you $500,000 tomorrow if you guys want it. Like, we'll bet on you. And so I give you that as like be careful as a founder to raise money if you don't need it. It's really stupid to do that if you don't. The nature of our business and the nature of our market is win-loss as a category is a new category, and we've seen we have some experience in the feedback, data collection, market research space, and we've seen how these markets evolve. And we realized this wasn't as much of like we have to be the first ones here, and it's a land grab, whoever can get the most customers the fastest. It was more, you need to come in, you need to actually start working on the business, understanding what customers actually need, and start to build the technology kind of as you go, versus I need to go hire 150 engineers and build this thing as quickly as possible. And so for us, it didn't make sense to bootstrap if we were able to kind of grow into it. And, we were able, without even having a real product in place and having using outsourced dev shop, we were able to convince our early customers to buy Clozd, use us as a service provider with technology that we were building, and then we would transition them into technology over time. And the first couple of years, like, I'm not saying that was easy. I didn't pay myself a salary, right? Like, we didn't pay ourselves for a while, and we had to be super scrappy. We worked out of my basement for the first year. So I would wake up in the morning, I'd go downstairs, and Andrew would show up, and our first employee, Braden, would come, and we would step over my daughter's Barbie dolls and go into the basement bedroom that we converted into an office. And, you know, we were super lean, and yeah, it was stressful, but you know, years later, when you are raising funds and you have a list of customers and strong retention and money in the bank and you're profitable, those conversations are a little bit different when you go out to market. A lot more
leverage in those conversations at that point, obviously.
Yeah. And so for us, it didn't make sense to raise a bunch of capital and to dilute ourselves when we needed to really understand and drive product market fit first. And so that's why we waited. Now, other people, I think I've seen other businesses, they raise capital, they know exactly where they're going right out of the gates. They're able to scale up quickly. And I've seen others raise a bunch of money, get a bunch of without finding product market fit, and they're gone. Like they no longer exist, especially over the last 24 months in the economic environment that tech companies have been dealing with.
Yeah,
they're gone because they never actually found themselves as a business. They found capital, but having capital does not make you a business. Having customers makes you a business, you know? So I think it's just a really interesting decision that a lot of entrepreneurs have to go walk through. Like this weekend, actually, I was talking to an old friend of mine that I used to live by when I lived in Texas, and he was talking to me about a startup that he was working on, and we were talking about how to build a pitch deck. And I started questioning him about like, well, do you actually need to raise money? What would you spend the money on? And if you don't have a clear, like, I need to build these things specifically, or I need to have a sales team that does, if you don't have a precise use of the funds, then don't do it.
Yeah.
You're just going to dilute yourself, and you'll feel pressure to spend the money, and you'll waste it.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I mean, it is interesting too, given, you know, the market that you guys were going into. You didn't need to be first to market. It was already kind of a general concept already, but I love the idea of building out the concept, building out your customer base first, and then going after capital when it became appropriate at that time. So, I mean, you mentioned your partner, your co-founder, Andrew. I mean, other than just sort of just general, you know, pains of growing a startup that a lot of people encounter when they are building a company, what are some of the other challenges that you guys face in the early stages of building out Clozd?
Good question. You know, the business part was pretty, I'm not going to say easy. It wasn't easy. Like, it required discipline and work. And just like tenacious problem solving. Like, you have to just be, we'd wake up, eat, sleep, you knew you were committed to it. But there's phases of growth that you go through. And I think a lot of founders are really good at the problem solving in the business part, whether they come from like an engineering software development background or a sales marketing, whatever background. The fact that you're willing to found a business, that you're willing to kind of roll your sleeves up and do the work yourself. If you have that kind of tenaciousness about you of like, I'm not afraid to work. I don't feel like I need to delegate stuff. I don't feel like I need 50 direct reports. I just feel like I see a problem and I want to go tackle it. Those people thrive in the early days. And I feel like we thrived in that setting, right? Some of the challenges that I see people run into in that setting is they don't pick the right partners. They don't have complementary skill sets. They don't have complementary personalities. They don't have mutual commitment, right? Like, I would be Clozd wouldn't have worked if I would have felt like I was working harder to drive the business than Andrew was, and vice versa. if Andrew felt like he was doing everything and I was doing nothing. So in those early days, I think a lot of startups fail. It's not because of the problem. It's because that they're going after. It's not because they chose the wrong opportunity to go after it. It's because they maybe don't have the right team going after it and the right skill sets to complement each other going after it. That, because Andrew and I had known each other, because we'd worked together, because we trusted each other deeply, we were able to kind of hit the ground running, and we started winning customers quickly.
Almost
in our first, we started in April 2017, and by the end of the year, we had like 7 or 8 customers, and we're on a run rate of several $100,000 a year of revenue. And by the end of our second year, we were over $1 million in revenue, and with repeating customers. So the point of that is, to answer your question, in the early days, that wasn't as hard. What became more difficult, I would say, in the early days was making sure that you stayed focused.
Yeah.
Right? Because you start to have success and you start thinking, oh, I should do this, or well, I should do this, or I should do. But it's more important to figure out, we're having success. Why are we having success? How do I turn that into a stamp and replicate it over and over and over? And then the next chapter is actually can be harder for some people, and frankly for us it was a little bit. Is as you move out of the day-to-day of just solving the business problems, selling the deals, scoping and building the product, working with customers directly, and scaling and having other people come underneath you, it is so critical to hire the right people.
Yeah,
you have to have the right people, because and it's hard to hire the right people because not all the best talent is willing to take a risk on a company in a super early stage. And so you don't have the brand reputation, things like that. So it's hard to attract the very best talent in those early stages. But if you get the right people that can help you grow the business, you end up being able to work with them forever. So like one of our first team members, our second full-time hire, it's Cam. Cam has been at Clozd now he hit his 6-year anniversary just a couple days ago, and like this is the kind of person who's just been so awesome to have.
Yeah,
and not only for the business but for him, he's grown immensely. It was his first job out of it. He was in college when he started working with us. So the hard part is having the right people, having the right focus, adding the right people, and if you have the right capabilities, the business problems will just solve themselves if you're all mutually committed to that. But the other thing too that I would just say to watch out for, it goes back to kind of your original question, raising money and things like that. Be really careful as an entrepreneur to not look at your blind spots. I remember there were multiple companies that were started after Clozd in the local Silicon Slopes, Salt Lake City area, that we had more revenue than they did. We had more customers than they did. We were profitable. We weren't actually out seeking to raise money, but we were hearing about how company X raised $50 million. Company Y raised $100 million. And you're sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, I got to go do that too. And at the end of the day, like that was a really dumb measuring stick. Like
it almost really feels like that is the measuring stick of success when it's not.
When it's not. You know? Why do you need so much money to run your business? Yeah. Why do you need if you can return the capital to the investors and prove the revenue and growth numbers, great. That's awesome. That's good for you. That's good for the investors. But if you're just like, some of those companies don't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
You know, they've raised millions of dollars, but they didn't actually have. And so I sat there thinking like, man, why are we not raising? What's the matter? Like, are we being stupid?
Yeah.
But we just kind of continued down our path. And when it made sense for us to raise, we raised. So that's another hard thing, is like, your business is your business. It is not other people's businesses. It does not operate the same. It does not have the same cost structure. It does not have the same market and customers always. And so you need to make decisions based off of what's right for your business. And that might mean raising money sooner. It might mean never raising money, but make the right decisions based off of your business, because otherwise, if you try to drive staring at your blind spot. You're going to crash the car.
Yeah. Well, Spencer, I can't thank you enough for dedicating some time to speak with us today. Very excited about, what you guys are doing at Clozd and your overall trajectory. No doubt you guys will continue to be in the news and making splashes with everything you're doing. So thank you so much. Where can people go to find out more about you, Andrew, Clozd? Where would you want them to go?
Awesome. The easiest place is clozd.com, clozd.com. You can go check that out. Customers that are, if you're interested in learning about what we do, you can see it there. If you're interested in learning more about our services, you can check that out. If you want to talk more about what it's like to be an entrepreneur and deal with this stuff, I'm happy to talk to people. You can email me directly to spencer@clozd.com. Happy to chat with you that way too.
Awesome. Thank you, Spencer. We appreciate your time and have a good one. Thank you for watching. And until next time, keep innovating.